Welcome back, everyone. Or welcome for newcomers to the Art Lounge Alley. I'm your host. This is Drawing Comics Part 34. What you're looking at is... work done from this amazing comic book right here. This is Conan the Barbarian, drawn by John Buscema. And I'm going to show you guys the beginning. Script is Michael Fleischer. And as you guys could see here, adaptation and art, John Buscema. There's also George Roussos as color, Joe Rosen as letterers, Louis Jones as editor, Jim Shooter as editor-in-chief, Glenn Lord as technical advisor, and it says soul? Does that say soul? I guess so. Soul and inspiration, Robert E. Howard, creator of Conan. Oh, interesting. Robert E. Howard is the creator of this. All right. But Stan Lee presents. So yeah, this is his amazing work. So far, I've been going through all of these panels. The goal being to draw pretty much the entire book. Now, this has been taking some time just because I'm only doing it once a week. With other projects going on, and as well as creating these special intros, that's taking up a lot of the time. But I am looking to really finish it up. So I'm at about like halfway through the book. And this is where we are right now. And as you guys can see, this is the page that I currently am up to, and we'll continue. So the goal is going to be to create this one, finish this one up. There isn't really that much left here. So to catch you guys up to what is going on here, Conan went on a venture to confront this cultist, this cult leader, something that we are very familiar with in current day politics as well. And he decided to infiltrate the group, dressed up as one of them, but he was discovered. And he was tortured and beaten and then crucified on this dying tree in the middle of nowhere, out in the desert, left to be vulture food. But luckily, his friend from a distance, he spotted his friend from a distance, who apparently found out where he was and managed to get him down from the tree. And this is where we are right now. His other lovely friend is by his side, and she's imploring the wizard that you guys see in the blue robes. It doesn't really look like a wizard, it kind of looks like a shaman, to bring him back to life. For those of you who are just tuning in for the very first time to the stream, to the Drawn Comics stream, I highly encourage you guys to check out the very first episode of Drawn Comics, where I introduce you guys to Conan, Conan the Barbarian and John Buscema. And I introduce you guys by playing a 5-minute reel that I created. It's a 5-minute flick, just talking about John Buscema, his journey, what his early life was like, what was his journey to becoming an illustrator at Marvel, meeting Stan Lee, and what his younger years were like. Yeah, it's a fun 5-minute flick. It's worth checking out, and you guys get to see some beautiful art done by John Buscema, some images that aren't very common in the mainstream imagery, I guess. So I was able to dig up some cool drawings that he did, as well as sketches. So make sure you check that out, and the way you could do that is by going into the video section of the Twitch channel and filtering the videos based on collection. And when you guys get there, you will see a highlights folder. In that highlights folder are going to be all the different special intros that I've had throughout the Art Lounge Alley stream, where you guys will find this John Buscema 5-minute flick. It was actually a blast making it, just in some ways I wish I had more time, but with more time I would have like more things to want to put on there and to perfect and so on and so forth. Kind of like the positive and the negative to all that. Well, I think really there's more positive from having more time than there is negative. And I think pretty much everybody hopes for it. I don't think people really understand how important it is, and just on that topic of what I was talking about previously in the previous stream of just like where our time goes. Just this idea that we barely have any time to actually develop anything, in a sense. Like for most people, I believe, people who have like their day-to-day job, they go to work, they come back, and the little time that they do have, by the time I would say you come back from work, right, most people leave their job at 5. Usually on average, I'm going to say it takes about 45 minutes to an hour. I would say an hour is probably the average for people to get back home. So 6 o'clock, you get back home, right? And you're not going to just immediately go and do whatever it is that you're doing. You're most likely, or most people will want to unwind, whether it's like sitting down and watching something, or going and taking a shower, and then afterwards eating, right? Because you haven't ate since lunch, so you're going to want to eat again, hopefully. So with all that done, whether you unwinding at 6 o'clock to making food, I'm going to say you're done eating probably about like 8:30, right? And then if you're going to do any cleaning, which at some point you're going to have to because all the other days you didn't, let's just say, and it's all piling up and you don't have any dishes. Personally, I always do them. I don't ever let them pile up. To me, it's just like a pet peeve. I just don't like having dirty dishes around. But yeah, for other people I know, sometimes that becomes piled and then they have to take care of that. So that's going to take another 40 minutes probably. So you're done eating at 8:30, cleaning up 40 minutes. It's already 9 o'clock. So what time do you have to actually do anything? You only have like an hour before you could get 8 hours of sleep. And then we're right, because 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got to get up at 7. Some of you have to wake up at 6. So you have to be asleep at 10. So you just have an hour every day to yourself. That's insane. That is bonkers, man. That is something that I am totally against. And I don't think that people understand how important it is to change that. How important it is for everybody in a sense. I think people will be a lot happier if they had more time to themselves per day. They wouldn't be like trying to rush home and like get pissed off because somebody's cutting them off or there's traffic and they're just like, oh, this is great. Now another hour of my day is gone. I think people will be a lot happier. They'll be able to do things beyond just going to work, coming home, going to sleep, going to work. And in turn, I think there will be less problems. I think a lot of people's frustration comes from the fact that they're just like restricted to this rigid scenario in their life where only 2 days out of the week, I would say 1, because one day you're spending most of your day doing chores, and even worse if you're on social media for most of the day, because then your entire day is gone to social media. You didn't get anything done. And you got 1 day left and you got to go back to work, where you get 1 hour out of every day to yourself. That's bonkers. And then of course if you have family, forget it. You don't have any of that. But it's just this awful cycle, where people don't have any free time to themselves to do anything. And even worse, with how things are going now, where people aren't even getting paid properly for all that. You're dwindling your life away and you're not even getting paid well to compensate for it. So unless you are one of those like top execs or whatever, or if you have like an amazing job, that's the reality. And I'm going to say that's a lot of people. A lot of people are making their bare minimum, basically. And of course things are going to go south because of that. Most people are pissed off because that's a reality that they have to accept. And even worse when the pandemic just first hit and they were just like, well, you got to go out there and pay rent, so go and get this killer disease. Insane system. And I think more people have to wake up to that reality, how crazy it is, and actually start pushing back like hard. What you were seeing right now in Iran, that's a perfect example of what should be happening. Not for that, and all that as well comes from giving people who are exploited free rein. You're allowing, by not participating in action, or not coming together as people, and like being distracted by social media, being distracted by all these things like celebrity TV and what's hot and all that other stuff. It just gives those people free rein to just keep exploiting and making things worse and worse. Because people have like this kind of approach of like, oh, I'm gonna just shut everything off and focus on this show for the rest of the day. It just perpetuates that thing, and just things get worse and worse. As I mentioned in a previous stream, like I think modern day social media and how far it's gone is the greatest distraction of all time. Like I don't think anything is comparable to it. like maybe television, right? Back in the day, television was probably the social media. Everybody was glued to their TV wanting to see. But even back then, people didn't have access to 24-hour television. Like, there were shows that went on at a specific time, played for that time, and then that was it. You know, now we have like 500 channels and there's constant content on there. So people were, I think, a little bit more in tune with what was going on because they weren't so easily distracted, whereas modern day, I'd say it's the total opposite. And that's why things have really gotten out of hand with a lot of these like corporations and politics and all that, because nobody's really pushing back against them. They're too busy being distracted by all this stuff. Meanwhile, they're making life miserable for everybody in general. Just getting a kick out of exploiting everything. And people aren't pushing back against it. Trying to see if maybe his hand is a little too big there. Gonna do a quick measurement. Bring out this trusty little ruler. A hand is supposed to be 3/4 the size of the head. And that looks like it's a lot bigger. It's challenging to do it smaller than that. I think back then, people were less frustrated with things. And by back then, I'm going to say probably... Man, it's really hard to say. You know, I've been watching some of these movies, and some movies that are made in like the early 80s, 70s, and they talk about the same exact problems. You know, like... people being brainwashed by corporations. And how corporations are having free reign over the environment and people's lives, and how people aren't getting paid well. You know, so it doesn't really seem like much has changed, but I'm going to say that it's not getting worse. I mean, it's not getting better, or it's not equally the same, it's just getting worse. So the level of inequality is increasing. It's not stagnating. Yeah, like I was watching this movie recently called Rollerball, and it's like a movie in the 70s talking about how there was like the great corporate war, where it's basically like corporations in war with each other and has nothing to do with politics even. Or like politicians, really. It's just corporations who are controlling politicians, and you know, they're at war with each other to see which one is going to be the greatest, or is going to hold all the power, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's kind of like what it is. It's not so much that there's only a few politicians who are not in the hands of corporations. And those who are like contributing to their campaigns and who are contributing money and saying like, we need you to like stick to these policies and don't deviate, because if you do, then we will take these funds away from you and we will do the blah blah blah, and all this other stuff. Or they're having their like schmoozing sessions where people go to these like fancy events and people are like treating them lavishly and being like, yes, you're amazing, now do this for us, and this is our political endeavor and we need you to back it up. Now, of course, there's that avenue as well. Which is why it's so important to not allow any corporations to have anything to deal with politics and all that other stuff. Like there should be no contributions from them at all whatsoever. Like it should be strictly citizens, and that's pretty much it. It shouldn't be about money. It should be about like, what is the most progressive way to lead the economy? How do we fix a lot of these problems that are almost irreversible? As opposed to, well, how much money are we going to get from all this? But yeah, like, just dating back to like the 70s, 80s, early 90s, it's like the same exact problems there. And I was watching another documentary called Decline of Western Civilization, Part 3. And there was a point where one of the bands, they talk about everything they're saying. I'm like, this is just like modern day stuff. This is exactly what is happening. So it's like there are these repeating things that a lot of these politicians do to keep it at status quo. And just like not a lot of people are coming together to create that change. You add in social media, you add in all these distractions, TikTok videos that people want to become viral for, and not realize how things are being directed more and more towards war endeavors and poverty and destruction again and all that other stuff. Like there was another article I read where there were politicians who were trying to bring back like corporal punishment in schools. Spankings in schools now. That's insane. First of all, it's so gross. They're definitely gonna have like some weird old men getting a kick out of it. And getting all these like kid abusers in schools. It's gonna be insane if that actually happens. But yeah, it's just they're like taking free reign to do whatever they want because people aren't really pushing back. They're not really, coming together, protesting every day for weeks and months. Like not once, one day it doesn't do anything. We all see how that just kind of like fizzles away. I'm talking about daily. Every day there's like rotating groups of people. Like there's group A that comes in, they protest, and group B comes in, lets group A go back, group C maybe, to let A and B do what they need to do, and then they just keep rotating. Like that's one of the ways to do it. You just can't not do anything. I think that just, like I said, it gives them free reign. They get to do it and there's no repercussions for them. You have to make it incredibly uncomfortable for them, just like they're doing it to everybody else now. Like taking away rights than talking about freedom. This gaslighting tactic that they have going, where they're just contradicting themselves nonstop while doing all this stuff to make people more miserable. We have to like push back against it. You have to do something, and band together. And it has to be state to state thing. It can't be just like one location that does it and that's pretty much it. Like, it has to be everywhere. There is no reason for them to stop escalating things otherwise. Absolutely not. Like, if they decided to handle the pandemic the way that they did, and that was pretty much the most terrible scenario, like a disaster that kills a bunch of people and they don't care to do anything about it, or barely did anything, or did just enough so that people won't kick them out completely. There is no incentive for them to do better. Sorry, whoever the artist is, if I understood it, I probably would listen to it. But I had no idea what they were talking about. This is a challenging hand. I tried to do my best with it, but there's still so much more expression in the original one. Like, it really shows him stretching out his fingers into the air. I think a lot of this stuff is just a lot of distraction for them that they're creating. Like, now they're saying, oh, Roe v. Wade, if you vote, you're going to get that back. It was there before. It's not going to be a win. You're just reestablishing what was already established before. So they're like trying to make it seem as if though never before in history or had we had this and now we're going to have this win. It's like, no, we just didn't do a good job protecting it in the first place. That this is a cycle, that this is like the same exact scenario played again. Before, why Roe v. Wade was established was the same exact reason. So they're just replaying problems that I've had before. We're trying to bring back a lot of the problem. Book banning, like, stupidest thing ever. But it's just there to, like, annoy people. You know, that's what they're doing. That's their entire tactic. They lost the election. Now they're just, like, trying to be as antagonizing as possible and create all these stupid problems. And distract from what really is important, which is providing livable wages and decent hours. Like, forget this whole, 1 hour a day to yourself thing. It's absurd. I think more and more people should wake up to that idea. Like, hey, I'm only getting an hour to myself every day while these corporations are, like, banking on my misery, basically, like having no time to do anything other than just go to sleep and work. And that's one of the reasons why there's, like, alcohol and drug abuse, right? Because people are just like, I want to get away from this drudgery. Like, I want to go and get drunk or do something aside from going to work every day. And and then they're like, oh, there's drug problems. There need to be more churches around. It's like, no, there just needs to be better living wages and decent hours so that people won't feel irritated from all this drudgery. And they know that. It's not like they don't know that. And when I say they, I'm talking about the big wigs. I'm not talking about your everyday fans, right? Because that's like, I think what a lot of people seem to not get. It's like, they're like, I am this, I'm a Republican, like, you're not. The ones who are in the White House. You're just a supporter. You're just another person who subscribes to what they say. You are not actually that. No, those people are doing all sorts of things you will never do. And they're owning houses you will never own. They're having access to things you will not have access to, but yet they're still like, I am this, I'm a Republican. It's like, dude, no, you're not. You're just brainwashed to follow them because you don't fit in the other category. And that's a problem, because, again, if you have a system that gets people involved in the decision making of the economy, and the only options are these two options, so if somebody doesn't fit into one, let's say one that really goes up against their values, they're going to go into the other one. And of course, they're not going to want that other one to succeed, right? It's this, like, sickness, the competitive sickness. So that's a problem. That's another problem about having two parties as a system, because they'll naturally go to the other one and create problems as a way of saying, no, I don't agree with you. So right there is one huge issue that's going to always be this, like, butting heads, running around in circles kind of deal. It's like, oh, what are the values of this party system? Okay, we're going to do the total opposite of it because we want our party to win. We want our system to win. So in this oversimplification, you have this, like, same story on repeat. And that's why, you watch movies from the 70s, you watch movies from, like, the 80s, and they're talking about the same exact problems. And it's the exact same strife. So we have to move away from that. And I think a three-party system was great because then it's not up to just one or two. It starts actually becoming about fixing the economy because it's no longer this, back and forth between two parties. It's like, no, you actually have to start making legitimate points because you're going to get out outvoted. So I think that's also an important step. It's like, not only, wait, this, whatever they're saying doesn't make any sense and we're not going to support it, but hey, you're going to lose your position because you're just making nonsensical points. And this entire system depends on making valid points, and you're making invalid points over and over again. So, you know, you're getting in the way of the system functioning properly. And you're going to get voted out by not just one party, but another one. And the more people that are involved in that, the better. Because again, you know, the numbers are the ones. If there's like one person opposing one person, it's not as challenging as, let's say, one person versus 50 people. Or one person, or like 10 people versus 200 people. Like, you know, that becomes a different story. So if we just up that number and have more than one party involved, might lead to some progress. Whatever it is, what's going on now isn't working because, like I said, we're just stagnating and just having the same problems on repeat over and over and over again. And people are getting outraged and they're like, I can't believe this is happening. Well, it's like, that's why we got all these things that have been playing on loop over and over again. And people aren't banding together and protesting repeatedly, making it incredibly difficult and frustrating for all these politicians to keep exploiting and, you know, doing all these terrible things over and over again. Yeah, because they're not doing that, it's going to keep happening. And I also think a lot of like people who are, let's say, who consider themselves to be liberal or consider themselves to be progressive or whatever, they're not doing enough when it comes to like creating businesses and creating jobs for people, you know, because if the most of the market is controlled by extremists, well, you know, if they decide they don't want to hire people and exploit one worker and make them work, you know, triple shifts or whatever, they can, because, you know, there aren't really that many options. And that's exactly the problem here. That's another problem, is that most of the businesses are owned by these, you know, fascist capitalist business owners, the ones who are perpetuating all these problems or in charge of all these problems or creating all these problems. So, you know, if you create businesses and take that power away from them, then they're less likely to happen. You know, all those people are going to be like, these businesses are incredibly exploitative. Let's just leave and go to one that gives us better hours and wages, and we actually have time to ourselves, and we're able to save money, and we're able to enjoy ourselves. Like, let's not work for these companies anymore. You know, but there isn't any, or there isn't that many, for example. Like, you know, they should be establishing like these chains basically with these progressive values and working conditions everywhere, you know, with the help of other people. For instance, there's a lot of celebrities who are just like, oh, I'm so anti this, you know, I'm so anti these fascist beliefs and all that other stuff. But meanwhile, it's like, how much of your business are you investing? Or how much are you investing in creating businesses that are doing the opposite? they're like billionaires, and instead, or trillionaires or whatever, but instead they're like, I don't know, spending their money on nothing. Bags that cost $1 billion, so they can go to swanky parties and say I have $1 billion bag. I don't know. And that's why the aggressors, I want to say, are just like these outdated fascists, are in control of a lot of those things, because they're actually like strategizing and creating all these scenarios. They're banding together, they're doing all this stuff over and over again. So as I mentioned, that's why they're repeating through history over and over again. Yeah, there just needs to be a lot more pushback on all these fronts. And the way that Iran is doing it, they're doing it right, actually. Like, you see the protest on there, and they're like protesting on the streets and blocking roads, but they're also allowing like single file paths for cars. So they're blocking most of it, but they're making just enough room for single file traffic to come through, which is really smart. Actually, it's a very good way to go about it. I think in the States, a lot of people are just too distracted by wanting to become the next viral video, rather than like really trying to be part of something interesting and history changing. Like, they're perfectly divided, and that's another tactic that's been used to make sure you divide people and pin them up against each other and have them play ego trips on each other so that they don't band together, which is perfect for us. We could keep selling them things for them to keep outdoing each other, trying to antagonize each other as much as possible. That's perfect for us. More marketable things. And people are just eating it up. Oh man, look at the time. It's interesting. I'm not doing these intros, but time is still flying. So here I'm just trying to pay attention to the relationship again between objects, which is like the frame right here and his hand. But really, I should try to like sketch out the whole thing first. Most likely I'm not going to get to finish up this panel because we are slowly coming to an end for this stream, y'all. But at least just get like the entire shape of it down. So it looks like something is going on here. Something's working. Or the wizard is actually... I don't know, feeling some excruciating pain. Maybe he's like transferring some of the pain onto himself. Not really sure.
You have reached the voicemail box of
Kino.
Just wait for the tone. The person you're trying to reach is not available right now.
That's interesting, making beats from those telephone
If
prompters.
you need further assistance, enter pound now. Please leave your name, number, and a message after the tone.
How many of you are actually getting triggered by this and you're like tempted to do it?
Goodbye.
This is another really expressive hand. That is giving me slight trouble. It's because it's so bizarre looking. I don't know. There's something about it. Nope, still not right.
I have something for you. Don't worry, it's not a bug. It was my mother's. It's got quotes from her favorite books and quotes by famous people. Her thoughts. Come on, let's see.
I don't know. It looks like a dragon claw. Still not getting it. I'm gonna try to set the parameters for it. Because the fingers are so thin. And again, like drawing this on comic book paper, the panel would be a lot bigger, so there's more room for lines. Whereas since this is kind of limited space, I can't put too much detail.
A single soul dwelling in two bodies.
So I'm gonna try to sketch these out, and then I'm gonna have to end the stream here, y'all,
Find out who you are. Do it on purpose.
for the night. But fret not, I will be back tomorrow for more figure drawing basics at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the project stream, which I'm pretty excited about, at 9 p.m. And as always, y'all, if you enjoy this content, just remember to hit the like and subscribe button. They both help the stream out and will be greatly appreciated by yours truly. Check out the Patreon page. There's some interesting new content that's up there. As I mentioned earlier today, or earlier in the stream, I uploaded a new process video for something that has never been streamed on the Art Lounge Alley. It's only available to patrons. It's a process video from start to finish. It's a speed painting video. It's about 30 minutes. You guys can turn on any music that you like and check out that process. In the future, I might be doing process videos with commentary to give you guys a better understanding of what's going on. But at the moment, it is just a process video on its own, and I always welcome you guys to ask any questions in the coming streams when it comes to that. So that's available. You guys can check that out by going to the About section of the Twitch channel, clicking on the video section and the About section, and then clicking on the Patreon link. That's all the way on the right hand side. I kind of carried away with this drawing. I'm trying to get as much done before I end the stream, and that pretty much does it, y'all. I'm kind of satisfied with that rendition of the hand. I'm gonna do a little bit more work on it, and of course I will be back next week on this day on Monday at 9 p.m. to do more drawing comics, so you guys can check back in for that as well. All right, y'all, I'll see you tomorrow.